Welcome. Thank you for joining Worcester Historical Museum as we explore women and girls in this baseball-themed program that celebrates 5 pretty powerful women who have played baseball at all levels. I'm Ann Sadik, Director of Development. This is the 8th program leading up to the museum's landmark exhibition, Pretty Powerful, 100 Years of Voting and Style, opening October 23rd. Women and girls have played and worked hard so that their achievements will encourage and create new opportunities for girls and women to play ball. Over the next hour, our moderator and panelists will talk about the changing roles and employment opportunities for women, appearance standards from the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League Charm School Guide, Title IX, how the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League affected the future of women in sports, and our panelists' own stories and involvement in baseball. Everyone has a baseball story. Share yours in the chat room. On deck is my colleague, Eleanor Hubry, Director of Membership and Special Events, whose dad set up a baseball diamond in their backyard so that the family could play America's favorite game. Thank you, Eleanor, for getting this stellar group of women together for today's program.
Thank you, Ann. Let's get started. It is my pleasure to introduce these powerful women who have played, coached baseball and softball, owned teams, ran concession stands, and worked as scorekeepers, ball girls, in front offices, and more. Our moderator, Kate Myshrall, is Vice President of Advancement at Seven Hills Foundation. Kate is a former coordinating producer for New England Sports Network and Red Sox baseball. She also was a former production associate for NBC Sports. Our panelists today. First, Maybelle Blair is joining us from California, a pitcher for the Peoria Redwings during the 1948 season of the All-American Girl Professional Baseball League. Maybelle and her teammates were the inspiration for the 1992 major blockbuster hit, A League of Their Own, produced by Penny Marshall. Welcome, Maybelle. Kim Miner is with the WooSox Vice President and General Counsel. Her professional baseball career began in the front office of the Boston Red Sox, including her role as Fenway Ambassador of Fan Services. Kim formerly played varsity softball and pitched for Tufts University. Welcome, Kim. We also have Julie Creedon-Linton, is the co-owner, founder of the Worcester Bravehearts since 2014, and the Nashua Silver Knights since 2019. She is also Vice President of Operations of Creedon & Company. Julie attended Notre Dame Academy and was coached by Patricia Provost. And last but not least, Patricia Provost has been athletic director at Notre Dame Academy, a role she has played in encouraging young girls in sports locally for the past 45 years. Patty also played softball for many years herself. She coached both Kate Myshrall and Julie Creedon-Linton at Notre Dame Academy. Welcome, Patty, as well. Let's get started. Inning one. Take it away, Kate.
Thanks for the introduction, Eleanor. In the film, A League of Their Own, which many of you have watched, it featured a starting lineup of Gina Davis, Tom Hanks, Madonna, Rosie O'Donnell, and others. It depicted the short run of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League working from 1943 to 1954. It's where women played professional baseball as a replacement for the many Major League Baseball players who had gone to fight in World War II. Many people think that women started playing baseball in 1943 and stopped in 54 when the league ended, but nothing could be further from the truth. In the 19th century, baseball was enjoyed as an American pastime for both women and men, as well as girls and boys. It was not yet marked as masculine. The first record of a women's team playing baseball, not softball, is from the 1860s. The first collegiate women's baseball teams were formed in several women's schools in the Northeast, including Smith College in Northampton, Mass, and Vassar College in Poughkeepsie, New York. A segregated Black women's team, the Dolly Vardens from Philadelphia, were a professional baseball team in 1867. There were no Black women in the All-American Girls League. In the 1870s, an American woman could neither vote nor own property in her own name after marriage, but she could play ball. In 1875, two women's baseball teams, the Blondes and the Brunettes, played in Springfield, Illinois, marking the first time that fans paid admission and players were paid. Baseball became the first organized sports team on the Mount Holyoke College campus in South Hadley, Mass. In 1884. From the 1890s to 1934, hundreds of Bloomer Girls baseball teams sprung up across the country, challenging men's teams and often winning. Amelia Bloomer, an American women's rights and temperance advocate, was credited with designing the trousers that carried her name. She made sports more practical for women athletes. Teams with names like the Boston Bloomer Girls, the Philadelphia Bobbies, and the Baltimore Black Sox Colored Girls provided employment, travel, adventure, and fun for young women who could bat, catch, field, and slide. Maude Nelson, born Clementina Brida in 1881, an Italian immigrant, pitched and played third base at age 16 for the Boston Bloomer Girls. She went on to manage the Western Bloomer Girls, and in the 1920s formed the All-Star Ranger Girls. Out of a variety of different forms of indoor baseball, including diamond ball, kitten ball, and playground ball, softball became the most popular version in the 1930s. More popular throughout the United States was playing softball. This is partly due to the massive unemployment of the Great Depression, which created more time for recreation. It was also due in part to the social programs introduced as part of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt's New Deal, which created thousands of parks and playgrounds where the game was easily played. In the 1930s and 40s, under pressure from social reformers, businesses across the United States introduced insurance, education, sick leave, and other welfare work aimed at improving their employees' lives. Among these programs were women's softball, which served as both recreational activity for workers and advertisement for business. In this slide from 1942, Norton Company organized a women's athletic club for their female employees, including a softball team, and constructed a softball diamond on the company's property. In 1944, a softball team for female patients was organized at the Worcester State Hospital. In 1943, the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League was started by Philip Wrigley, the owner of the Chicago Cubs and Wrigley's Chewing Gum. It began with 4 teams: the Kenosha Comets, the Racine Bells, the Rockford Peaches, and the South End Blue Sox. 11 more teams were added. All teams were from the Midwest, but over time they gradually began to disband. And by 1954, there were only 5 teams left. In 1948, the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League reached its peak in popularity, with nearly 1 million fans in attendance. In 1952, Baseball Commissioner Ford Frick formally banned women from signing professional contracts with the men's team. As far as it's known, his ruling has yet to be rescinded. In 1954, the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League disbanded, marking the end of its 11-year history. Then, in 1972, the passage of Title IX revolutionized the world of high school and college women's sports by prohibiting discrimination based on sex in any educational program or activity receiving federal funding, including athletics. As a result, millions of girls and women across the country gained the opportunity to participate in school sports. Until 1973, Little League regulations prohibited girls from participating. In '74, though, a series of class action lawsuits targeted Little League Baseball for its refusal to admit girls. Consequently, the league changed its policies, and a bill signed by President Gerald Ford amended the charter of the organization to make it non-gender specific. Notably, this action was not related to Title IX, as Little League Baseball is a private organization and doesn't receive federal funds. The next year, more than 30,000 girls across the United States played on Little League teams. In 1998, girls were finally recognized in the National Baseball Hall of Fame. So now it's on to the second inning. It's time to interact with our amazing group of panelists. I want to know from each of you, and I'll lead you in, how did your love of sport continue onto your personal lives and your professional lives? Maybelle, let's start with you.
Oh my God, my love of baseball never ended. It actually started and never ended. Let's put it that direction. My family was all nothing but baseball, absolutely nuts. My mother thought she was the best ball player in her day, and my father knew he was, he thought. And we had the Blair Nine that traveled all over Texas playing baseball. That was my dad's brothers and cousins. So I grew up loving nothing but baseball, and it went on into my professional life as a baseball player, and also in my rest of my career at Northrop Aircraft. I became the third woman manager of Northrop Aircraft.
Well, Maybelle, and you're still at it. You're still all over the place as far as baseball is concerned, and working to get women recognized.
Oh my gosh, yes, that's my goal in my life before I die, is that we build a stadium in Rockford, Illinois, where the Rockford Peaches played. We want a museum and an activity building there to have a home of our own, like the boys have in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And as long as I'm on this side of the grass, I'm going to work that hard and try to get the funds and we get going. We have the property. All we need now is the money. Minor detail.
I have no doubt it's coming, Maybelle. Hey, Julie, was baseball and your love of baseball what made you continue and now operating the two teams?
I have to say, I played softball as a freshman at Notre Dame Academy, and I am by no means athletic. So I am much better on the other side of the field, cheering for the team and being the biggest cheerleader they have, pick them up when they need it. So that's kind of how we got into this Bravehearts and Silver Knights as owning the teams of those, because we could make the experience for the fans and make them join the team and pick them up when they had a tough game. And sometimes it even turns it around to a win. Our small family business is the one that we based all of our experiences on. Our love of food, probably why I'm not athletic, allows us to feed all the rest of the people at the ballpark. And we are the small family business, so we can walk the concourse and say hi to the fans and our friends. And most of the time in the past 7 years, they've become family, we've built such great relationships with everyone. And that's what it's all about, being the small family business and being able to make those relationships, and taking baseball as just an added bonus.
And what a spectacular job you and the family have done in making it just a really fun opportunity. I've been to many, many Bravehearts games, even followed you to Doyle Field and Leominster last year, but happy to have you back at Fitton Field. And it really is a wonderful family outing. So you can tell you love your baseball. Next up, Kim, how did the baseball and softball bug, because of your time at Tufts, get you all the way to the WooSox?
Sure. So a little bit like Maybelle, it was just in my family, a love for sports. It was actually more on my mom's side of the family, though. My mom and my grandmother, her mom are both avid sports fans. And my mom would have every sports event on. I distinctly remember my dad asking if we could like watch a TV show, and my mom would say, no, the Red Sox are playing. So my mom is the most passionate sports fan. I grew up with sports radio as sort of the backdrop to daily life. That was just how I grew up. And I played softball and loved it. And it wasn't until after college, after I finished playing at Tufts, that I worked for the Red Sox organization. And I realized that there really was potentially a future working in sports after my playing career was done. And for me, that was just ideal. I just love being surrounded by people who also love sports, who like talking about sports, watching sports. You know, I wanted to be a lawyer. I knew that. But when it dawned on me that you could be a lawyer working for a sports team, it was like the aha moment. And I knew what I wanted to do. And I will say, actually, it was funny when I came to work when we were still the Pawtucket Red Sox. I knew I was sort of in my space when I showed up the first day, and several of my coworkers were listening to sports radio while they were working. I was like, oh my gosh, at the law firm where I was working, that would have been a big no-no. But here I'm just sort of amongst my people. And I really like that. And it's just, you know, a lot of what I do is not at all baseball related, but you're still in the baseball environment. You're still at the ballpark. And as someone who loves the sport, there's really nothing better than that.
Well, congratulations. By all accounts, it is spectacular down at Kelly Square. So I can't wait to get to Polar Park. But
thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
what a feat that was to get that opened. And, it's been packed. So we'll hear more about that later. Now on to Patty. How did your love of baseball guide your path in your amazing career? I think it started with baseball, didn't it?
Well, it certainly did, Kate. 5 children in the family and dad out in the backyard playing baseball, using trees for bases, hit the bat sometimes, but playing baseball. And there were numerous hours where we just played catch, throw, catch, throw, catch. And that piece is the beginning of dreaming of athletics, dreaming of sports. Baseball really, we did some tag, but mostly baseball. And the dreams that you have when you are young, they can be preserved in your career choices. And that is certainly how my career came to be, loving sports, loving baseball. And then it came to 45 years of implementing a lot of sports. But when you play the game, and I think it's very obvious with Maybelle too, and you love your game, it's great. But showing and sharing the passion for your games is the greatest of all. And any young person that might be listening right now, dream your dream. I had that dream in the backyard to pursue some kind of game. It started with baseball, and many games since then have been just tremendous. Coaching you too, Kate. So that's how it all began. And now let's throw it back at you. How did your love of baseball influence your professional career?
Well, I used to watch Boston Red Sox baseball on the little TV in the kitchen with my grandfather. And that's where my love of sports started. But then I was fortunate enough to land at Notre Dame Academy, and boom, who came out of that gym door but Patty Provost. And I've had time on many fields coached by you. And that time taught me how to thrive as a member of a team. So I always played team sports. And I took those skills that you instilled in us, and I carry them with me today, even in my work today. We work as a team. You also taught me that I could do whatever I wanted to follow those dreams. That has been a common theme in all the young girls that you've coached, Patty, and it's so true. And my love of sports then continued on to college, where I was able to play, not softball, but other sports, and then on to New York, my first job at NBC Sports. I loved my first job. in my career in sports television because it was live, and you have to work with each other and trust each other and know kind of what your teammate's going to do, whether it's on the field or in the workplace. And those skills that we learned playing baseball or softball, I think really are probably the catalyst for why many of us are successful and enjoying the careers we're in right now. So I keep hearing your voice, as I heard for many years, Patty, but even when we get ready to do a big event at work, I hear you in the back of my head saying, I wish you luck, I wish you a good game, and I wish you fun, because in the end it was fun because you're working with a team. So that's my input. But now it's on to Maybelle. The movie, A League of Their Own, depicts the Girls Professional Baseball League as a true story set against the backdrop of World War II. Why do you think, Maybelle, it was so hard for society to accept that women were playing baseball? And then why was that league so successful?
Well, let's face it, men thought that we were to stay home and knit, crochet, and get in the house and put a little apron on and cook. But our hearts was with playing baseball or playing sports. We'd like to do, get out there and get some exercise and throw that ball around and hit and run and what have you. That's what made it so important for League of Their Own to get started. And thanks to Mr. Wrigley and President Roosevelt, when they decided to save baseball to form the League of Their Own. So Penny Marshall grabbed it after that and then made the movie, and people were aware that women could really play baseball, not softball, it's baseball. I was very fortunate though. I love my softball. I played professional softball and professional baseball, but my heart is with baseball. And we now have to open the doors for the girls to be able to play baseball, because the good old boys have pushed the girls into softball thinking that's where they belong. Well, it's great if you want to play softball, but there's so many girls out there that want to play baseball. In fact, we have thousands of girls out there playing. In fact, coming in July, we're going to have baseball for all in Maryland, where over 500 girls will show up for a good week. So these are the things that are happening today. And thank God that when that scout came out to my house and said, or came out and watched me play and signed me up, I was never so happy in my life, but I didn't think I could go because I knew my mother wouldn't sign the contract. Well, he says, Maybelle, I'll follow you home. I says, well, you're going to waste your time, so just back off. And he said, no, I'm going to go follow you home. So anyway, he followed me home and went in the house, and I knew what my mother was going to say, no. And she sure did. No, she's not leaving this house. Well, that went on for about a half hour, and he finally said, Mrs. Blair, you don't quite understand. We're going to pay her $55 a week. My mother looked at my father and says, you go crank up that car, and I'm going to go in and pack her suitcase, and she's on the next train out of here. And that was the best time of my life, is when I got off that train and then started to play baseball. I'll never forget it, and I'm not going to forget it until I'm under the ground. So that's how happy I am.
And we are so grateful you did, and your mother said yes, Maybelle.
Well, thank you, because we're not going to let up. And it was so much playing time. So if we have time later on, I'd like to tell you a few things, but we have to march on. Okay,
marching on now. Patty, you're next.
Okay.
Iconic women athletes like our own Maybelle Blair and others represented in A League of Their Own movie excelled in professional baseball before 1972, when Title IX was passed. Before Title IX, opportunities for women to play sports at schools were limited. And in your experience as a coach for 45 years and as a high school and collegiate player, how have you seen participation in sports grow? And what specifically about girls baseball and softball is coming up?
So there has been tremendous growth, and what a wonderful law, the Title IX. And the student athletes, the athletes, AAU, the baseball, softball girls and boys are very, very lucky to live in today's day. I consider myself lucky to have grown up in the 50s and 60s, loving baseball because my dad was coach at our little league team, the Indians, in Holden, Massachusetts. And we really didn't get out of Holden much, but when dad had a practice or a game, we got to go. Now at practice, I was allowed to play. And through all that backyard practice, I was pretty good. I could catch and throw and hit. And so a lot of other young girls were too. But when game time came, there we were behind the fence. And we weren't even allowed to be a back girl or a water girl or a bat boy, but it was just accepted back then. And Title IX has opened doors in an amazing place that we are in today for young girls able to play numerous sports. And at Notre Dame, we have grown from the one sport of girls basketball to 12 sports. And what the kids give to the sport is the same thing that we gave. You give your all, you play hard, you play well. The teamwork that you talked about, Kate, is amazing. And it does carry on. It carries on to leadership roles like where Julie is right now. It carries on to where your young daughter is right now, headed off to New York. It's an amazing path that I have been on, and to see young women excel on the stages, on the courts, on the fields. And a lot of it has started with the baseball. So go Red Sox, go WooSox, go NDA softball.
Absolutely. That goes to Julie now. Today, there are several women major sports leagues right here in North America. We've got the Women's National Basketball Association, the National Women's Hockey League, the National Women's Soccer League. Why isn't there a Women's National Baseball Association? As the owner of the Bravehearts and the Silver Knights in the Futures League, which is for collegiate age players, do you see a potential for women's baseball league?
Why not? I think anything's possible. I mean, maybe I'm looking at things with rose-colored glasses, but women have been surprising people for generations. I mean, look at it. We have our first women vice president. We have women coaching in the NBA, reffing in the NFL, and there are CEOs, women of Fortune 500 companies. And there's the kicker from one of the collegiate football teams that joined her team out on the field and was an elite college athlete. So these powerful women are just turning a man's world into the best person for the job world. These women are breaking down the barriers and they're getting it done. So why not? Women, why not have one? We have people like Maybelle that are leading the charge for this. And I don't see why we wouldn't be able to make the goal.
You know, earlier we mentioned how many girls are participating in Little League, but we have girls that are making it through and participating on their high school teams, even here in Central Mass, and doing really well in some community colleges. So it seems like we're getting awful close. So maybe you'll have to get that Futures League to start opening up some slots. Maybe we'll have to challenge them.
Just never know.
Exactly. On to you, Kim. Today, women are not playing Major League Baseball, but they are involved in every aspect of professional baseball, from operations to coaching to even a GM and more. Do you think they're ever going to play?
Yes, 100%. I actually think we're getting fairly close, I think. I think that things are happening pretty quickly on this front. Like Julie said, I think basketball gives me hope, how quickly things have changed with female coaches in basketball gives me a lot of hope. And in baseball, the fact that we are now seeing more and more female coaches, Bianca Smith in the Red Sox organization, Rachel Balkovec. What I love is that way you're seeing women in the dugouts with the players, coaching them on their sport. And I think that barrier is so important to break down because, well, there are a lot of women like me in front offices for teams, seeing women on the field and in the clubhouses, in the batting cages, offering sport-specific guidance and playing and having their skills on display, I think is really the next frontier and is so important. I think a lot of us know, Maybelle certainly knows that women can play. That's not really the question. I think that perhaps having women play might change what the game looks like a little bit in terms of the art of the game. And I would love to see that. And I do think a lot of it comes down to less what women are doing. I think a lot of the times we tend to focus on what women are doing to break through, but it's very much so on the men to be comfortable with seeing women in positions of power, strong athletes, side by side on their team. And I think that's actually really where we need to see more progress than, the women doing all this work to justify their role. I think that hopefully with time, we'll see more and more men being accepting of that and eventually being accepting of female teammates. And the other thing I'll just say anecdotally too, is we know that women's sports do great on television. They're great spectator sports. We're seeing that right now, right? With the women's national soccer team, the Women's College World Series is on television actually as we speak, game 2 of the championship series, and they're doing record numbers. So what I'm loving there is you're seeing that watching female athletes perform in these team sports is something people do want to watch. And I think that used to be a myth that people didn't want to watch that, and now they do, and we're seeing that very clearly. And so I think that's sort of another obstacle that's getting knocked down towards having women on the field with their baseball teammates.
That's such a great point. The ratings will drive us right to the major leagues. Absolutely. Yep. You also mentioned, Kim, the art of the game. And I'm looking at Maybelle and seeing I think her practice jersey as a backdrop. And I want to know, Maybelle, what was your uniform like back in 1948? And did it restrict how you played?
This is it right here, as you can see. And it was, hey, we were happy to play in that dress. We were able to play baseball. The only thing we didn't like about that dress and our bloomers was we didn't have any sliding plaids. And so when we'd slide, we'd get gravel in our rear end, and I still have gravel in mine at 94 years old, and I can still feel a few pieces. We had huge strawberries, and we worked through that. We didn't go on the DL list for a month. We had to play or somebody would take our spot, and we certainly didn't want that to happen. And as far as I was listening to Kim, she's so right. But we will never be able to compete with men, just like in the WNBA. They would never be able to play on a NBA basketball team because we're not built like men. Our best WNBA ball player couldn't even sit on a bench of a NBA ball club. So what we need is a league of our own to show our skills. If one of our girls could even make a D1 baseball team like Georgia or Oklahoma or USC or whatever, we would be very happy to be able to make that league. We're lucky to get, in the minor colleges to play baseball. But when we hit the big time, then we'll be in. But if we ever make a AA team, I think we'd be very lucky. A AAA, we might, if it's a girl pitcher, we could possibly do it. But what we need is a league of our own, just like we had before, because we got to compete against women. That's where we can excel. And that's what I'm so hoping that this will happen again. And also, I got to mention one other thing while I'm still here yet. We mentioned about referees in the NBA and the football league. Do you know we don't have one woman umpire in the major league league? And you know, as well as I know, you got eyes. Everybody's got good eyes. We can see if there's a strike or if there's a ball. That's not too tough. And we know the rule books back and forth. So why in the world can't we be major league umpires? That's the easiest one of the whole sports to referee or umpire. That's my philosophy. And we got 2 in the minor leagues right now, but they're so low we don't even know they're in there hardly. But one of these days we can show them we can umpire. That we can compete with the men is umpiring, but we can't as far as our athletic ability because we're just not built like men.
Yeah.
Maybelle,
Maybelle, tell me, you mentioned earlier when we met something about a charm school guide with beauty tips or beauty routines. What's that all about?
Gosh, yes, you know, we would get fined if you wouldn't wear lipstick. We had a charm school come out, and I wasn't in it because I wasn't that old at 1943 when we had the charm school 44. But you know, they tried to have us look like ladies. So they'd put our high heels on with 2 Charlie horses, trying to walk with books in on our heads and what have you. It might work with some of the girls, but a lot of the girls, it just didn't quite work out too well. But we would get fined $5 if we would, you know, not wear dresses or not wear a lipstick, or if we didn't just act right out in public, they would fine us. And boy, $5 in our day, that was a heck of a lot of money. But thank God that I didn't do that. But my folks thought I was going to send them home some money, but they taught me how to play poker on the bus, and they won all my darn money. I almost had to borrow money from my folks to get by. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. I would never change my experience in the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. And I think we have to open it up for the girls.
Maybelle, just quickly, one of our viewers is asking if the scout who found you, was that the same as the character in A League of Their Own?
Oh, not the same guy, no.
But the same character?
Same principle, yes. Yeah. Same principle. It had scouts all over the country. And nobody was actually depicted in the movie. It was a synopsis of the whole league, and they took out certain characters that they sort of went after and what have you. And Penny Marshall was the greatest, gosh darn, to us girls when we went into in Cooperstown at the end when we all marched in and we played out on the league. And she had the food truck out there, and we could have anything we wanted. And naturally, I stood by the food truck quite a lot, as you can tell. And she was just wonderful. And there was so many things that happened in the movie, just like Tom Hanks said. He says, most fun movie he ever made in his life is because he could eat all he wanted and he didn't have to shave. But he was quite an athlete himself. I could go on for a long time, but I got to quit, I know.
Well, no, that was wonderful. Let's turn back now to what's going on in our current time here. Julie, in 2020, Kim Ng was hired as the GM of the Marlins, the first time a woman's held a position in MLB. It took her 30 years to be hired as the GM, and she's currently the highest ranking female baseball executive. Kim had several different positions over those 30 years, assistant GM of the Yankees. As owner of several baseball teams, do you think it took her this long to secure the GM position just because she's a woman?
Maybe. But I've always been told that where I've been is going to help me to get where I'm going. So the best route to get there is to gain as much knowledge and how to help get you to where you want to be. So in an article that I read about in Time Magazine said that she interviewed for 10 GM positions. That's just crazy. But the article also highlighted everything she did before getting that position. So the most remarkable trait I can see in her is that she never gave up. 10 times. I may have given up prior to that. She'd gained the knowledge and experience by doing the work, learning the methods, and by fighting the battles. Many times she was the only woman in the room and she'd get the looks. We all know the looks. But she was able to prove that she deserved the position more than anyone by leaving the blood, sweat, and tears in her path behind her. But maybe in the past, if she had gotten one of those other jobs, she would have done a good job. Maybe she would have done a great job. But with her experience, now she can perform the job better than anyone else. And she can pave the way for women to push the barriers down. She's probably a even better role model for everything that she's been able to do.
Oh, definitely. Kim, speaking of, busting down those barriers, Janet Marie Smith, she's part of the team that designed Polar Park. She is a ballpark genius, and her signature style is to connect a team to the city and to the neighborhood it inhabits. The Polar Park steel structure recalls Worcester's industrial history. And the first ballpark she was involved with was Oriole Park at Camden Yards, which is only a baseball stadium. It's not multifunction, which opened back in 1992. This was a retro ballpark as well with modern amenities. What do you think was Janet Marie's inspiration for going to this retro style ballpark in 92 versus the cookie cutter stadiums that, have football, soccer, baseball?
So I've asked her this question, and I'm sure she'd be here. She'd love to tell us all herself. But I also have the privilege of having had conversations with her about Fenway Park, our previous location, which was McCoy Stadium in Pawtucket, and then now building Polar Park in Worcester. And she really remains true to the region and the area where the park is being built. So it's really, to her, she's got a vision for this needs to fit and be true to the area that it's in. You can't just plop a generic stadium or one that belongs somewhere else into where you are. Dodger Stadium that she's working on currently has mid-century modern look, which would be totally out of place, say in Worcester, whereas our ballpark fits really well in Worcester. So she tries to tie it so much to the location that you're in. And I'll say too, she started a revolution with that, right? She started this trend where we had been going to bigger and bigger stadiums, and instead of going to smaller ballparks that felt smaller and more intimate, and were really more about baseball and a little bit of that sort of traditional nostalgic feel that we all love about baseball. And I think that's important to point out because as far as I know, she was one of the first women to be given the role to have those says and have that opinion, and she completely changed the game. So it's just a good argument for why you need to have a diverse set of views on any topic, right? Is you'll get new ideas, you'll get creative ways to do things, and everyone else might follow suit.
And at the WooSox, you've done a lot of work to incorporate minority and women-owned businesses and women into the whole fabric of what's going on down there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it starts from within, right? We have a front office staff full of a lot of awesome, really strong women. One of them, Sammy Sequoia Beggs, is actually on this. She's our senior director of ticket operations. She does all of our ticketing. She's one of those people who not everyone hears about, but she's really making things happen every day for the ball club. So we have a lot of women like that in our front office who were tremendous athletes in their own right. Sammy played baseball at a very high level herself. So we have a lot of strong women in our front office, and I think that has reverberating effects from it. When we were building the ballpark as well, it was important to everyone that there were a lot of female construction workers on site. And I know that we're all familiar with, unfortunately, how the pandemic caused a lot of women to not be able to work for a variety of reasons, childcare and others. And one of the things that we monitored closely and we're pretty proud of was that we were able to maintain levels of female construction workers on the job, even towards the end of the project. So that was important to us, and something that I loved seeing when I came to the ballpark, seeing women in their work boots, on the site. And then we also are actively trying to seek out women and minority-owned businesses to work with. We work with a lot of service providers and vendors, and we try really hard to find ones who are minority and or women owned or run. And we've actually found a fair number in Worcester, which has been wonderful to see. So I feel like Worcester's doing pretty well in that respect.
Definitely. Well, thank you. And
Right.
keep it up. Hey, Patty, the hallmark of Notre Dame Academy is that their young women go off and become confident leaders. How did that tremendous athletic program that you built from one sport to 12 over the years, including a very successful softball program, how did it build skills amongst the students? I spoke about it earlier, my perspective, having gone through with you. What do you see amongst the other graduates?
Well, the fact that we teach, we're in the classrooms teaching many different disciplines, but teaching on the fields and courts is paramount in building your program. We have had an unprecedented, wonderful coaching staff. My softball coach was with me for 19 years, and there wasn't a day that went by that they weren't sliding. And the only thing is, Maybelle, we had sliding pants, so we weren't getting strawberries. But the teaching the skill of the sport is critical towards the continuity, towards getting your team just where you want it to be. Is it always written in W's and L's? Not always. You've got to engage your student athlete. You have to excite them, share your passion for your sport, which our wonderful coaching staff has done day in and day out. And then that gives you power to empower a young woman to step to the field with her glove on, or step with her stick in the field hockey, or bounce the basketball and try to maybe dunk it, but empower them with the confidence and the place that they can try. And believe it or not, trying has been more successful than you know. Mm-hmm. So building confidence comes with discipline, calling on them to step up to the plate, expect them to be the best that they can be each and every day, not just once in a while and not just during game time, to be the best person you can be. And I really think that confidence through the Notre Dame Academy way of teaching, classroom, fields, and courts really inspires them to go on. When you have confidence, you can have fun. And Kate, when you have fun, you can do amazing things. So we are about following the hard knocks, work hard, excite yourself, excite your teammates about your sport, and that is empowering in itself.
Wow.
So
thanks, Patty.
that's kind of what we've done.
Excellent. All right, well, why don't we turn and open it up for some Q&A, because we got a lot of Q&A ready here. We have some folks asking, and we want to know, Maybelle, I have some folks, somebody named Lori has chimed in and wants to know if you are still able to keep in touch with any of the women you played with.
Oh yeah, I in touch with quite a few of them that's still living. I think we have about 53 that are still living. About 25 don't know who in the heck they are, and there's about maybe about 10 like me that's still able to get around right now. Hey, and I wanted to tell you something. I forgot to mention that we are now making a new movie of League of Their Own, a follow-up. It'll be a television series. It'll be 10 sessions, and we're going to start filming in July in Pittsburgh. So I will be heading out to Pittsburgh here in about, I don't know, sometime early in July, and then wind up in Baseball for All in Maryland. So I'm getting all excited to get going. And Kim mentioned Kim Ing and Anna Marie Smith. Those are the most two wonderful women in the world, to carry on the flag and torch for us girls. I'll tell you, Kim, I met her at Dodger Stadium at a baseball clinic for little girls when Jamie McCourt owned the Dodgers, and became very close friends with Kim. And God love her, she did it. I've been in her corner ever since I was in Los Angeles with her. And I am so proud of Kim Ing that you have no idea. And Janet Marie Smith, there's only one Janet Marie Smith. And so help me God, we're going to get all this done. And just like Kim is coming up in the Red Sox organization, we're having these young women come on. And I'm so proud of these girls that are doing that. They don't have to be ball players, but they could get in the front office and do all these things. We even have girls working on the ground crews. We can do these things. And these are the things we want. We want that door open, but we do want a league of our own again.
I have Lori wants to know if you got to meet Madonna during, after the movie.
Yes, definitely got to meet Madonna. And Madonna during the filming was outstanding. She really takes criticism real good. She was sliding into head first into third base in the movie, and sliding head first with our our makeup and everything. Some of us are endowed, and she did that 12 times before Penny said that was a take. And I was so proud of her. She'd just get up and brush herself off and walk out and give a dirty look, but that dirty look's not words. And then she'd go back and slide again. There was so many things that happened during making the movie. I just love to sit here and tell you guys.
I bet. Hey, we have a couple folks chiming in on the chat. And if you have a question, please go ahead and put something in there. We'll get it in. But I have a couple folks asking about, is anybody thinking of starting a women's team in Central Mass? We have such a hotbed between the Futures League and AAA. Is anybody in your circles, Julie, been talking about it? Oh, it could be your idea then.
Who knows? Maybe.
Hi, Julie.
Hey, come on, Julie, get with the program. I'll help you.
If I could work with you, Maybelle, I'd be there.
Yeah, I'll be there. Well, you call me. I'll be anywhere if it's promoting women's baseball. You call me, Julie. I'll be there to help you any day.
Well, Sammy is saying there is an all-girls league in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, the Slaterettes. It's
Slaterettes.
Way to the adult league. So you remember them, Kim?
Yeah, the Slaterettes. Yep, we partnered with them on a number of things, and Sammy, my colleague, played for them as well. They're great.
Well, I think it's time for us to wrap up and head into our third inning. And we have a poem by J. Patrick Lewis titled "The First Girls in Little League Baseball."
December 26th, 1974, Title IX of the 1972 Education Act is signed, providing for equal opportunity in athletics for girls as well as boys. Here's the poem. The year was 1974 when little leaguers learned the score. President Ford took out his pen and signed a law that said from then on, women too would have the chance to wear the stripes and wear the pants. Now what you hear as flags unfurl is attaboy and attagirl.
And now I'd like Anne to wrap it up for us. Thank you so much for what a wonderful, wonderful night. Anne, how'd we do?
Just terrific. Thank you so much. A sincere thanks to our pretty powerful, pretty smart, pretty awesome moderator and panelists, Kate, Maybelle, Patty, Julie, and Kim. Tonight's program was brought to you by Worcester Historical Museum and Pretty Powerful, 100 Years of Voting and Style, in collaboration with Worcester WooSox, All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, Worcester Bravehearts, Seven Hills Foundation and Affiliates, and Notre Dame Academy. On behalf of the museum's Pretty Powerful Organizing Committee, Costumes and Textiles Council, board and staff, we thank you for joining us tonight. It is now my pleasure to introduce Bill Wallace, Worcester Historical Museum Executive Director.
Good evening, and thank you all for your contributions this evening, your stories, your information, and your perspective on the future of women in baseball. We certainly want to offer a special thank you to Donna Cohen, who brought us the wonderful Maybelle Blair, and Dr. Charles Steinberg, with whom we've spent a lot of time talking about Polar Park, and Dr. Madeline Ryan, who has helped us with an enormous amount of research, a member of our staff at Worcester Historical Museum. And of course, as an institution, our very sincere thanks to our major sponsors, the National Endowment for the Humanities, Exploring the Human Endeavor, the Worcester Together Fund that many of you are familiar with, a joint effort between the Greater Worcester Community Foundation and the United Way of Central Massachusetts in partnership with the City of Worcester. The more local level, the Fred Harris Daniels Foundation, their important support of our virtual programs, and of course, the Massachusetts Cultural Council, one of the very important agencies within the state government that promotes excellence, access, education, diversity in the arts, and of course, supports fascinating and significant programs like the one we've had this evening. Those conversations make the Commonwealth a better place. So our thanks to the Mass Cultural Council and to all of our legislators who help to ensure that there is annual support for them. And of course, the Pretty Powerful committee that Anne has mentioned is a league of its own, Maybelle. They are pretty powerful, and I think some of them could hit some home runs. I think we'd invite you to challenge them. And we thank all of you for joining us this evening, our audience. Please stay in touch with us, stay in touch with the Worcester Historical Museum. For right now, leave in the chat box your thoughts about this evening's program and something more you'd like to see. We have lots of baseball programs coming up in Worcester, not just at Worcester Historical Museum, but as you see here, Worcester at Bat is now up on the Worcester Historical Museum's YouTube channel, thanks to one of our viewers tonight, Bill Ballou, who narrates 27 minutes of Worcester baseball history. You don't want to miss it. June 12th, the iconic jersey opens at the Worcester Art Museum. You got to be there, dress up, wear the best of all the baseball gear you have. And next Wednesday, and then again on July 14th, we have some more baseball local history led by Bill Ballou, in one case with Brian Goslow and Jeanette Greenwood, who's a professor at Clark University. Excuse me, I almost said her in the wrong institution. And then on our July 14th program, more from Dr. Greenwood, but also Chuck Arning, the former ranger of the Blackstone, bringing us stories of some of the teams, the Industrial League teams that so populated the Valley. The role of Worcester Historical Museum is to share the stories of Worcester, past, present, and also future. So thank you for helping us keep the stories alive today and for future generations, and for all that you've added this evening to that story. We look forward to seeing you again soon. As you see on the screen, Worcester Historical Museum reopens at 30 Elm Street on July 1st. Spend your 4th of July with Worcester Historical Museum. But in the meanwhile, check out our website. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram and our YouTube channel. And please be sure to like us on Facebook if you're there. So on behalf of everyone at Worcester Historical Museum, our thanks to our team this evening, and our thanks to all of you. And we'll see you at the game, whether that game is at Fitton Field or it's at Polar Park. Maybe it's in one of the ball parks in the city's public parks, or maybe it's just one of those pickup games that one of you is going to instigate in your neighborhood. We'll see you there. Play ball. Thank you.